Hello and good evening, everybody. I am delighted to be co-hosting with Bev on an interview of Maureen Sullivan. And if you're not familiar with her story, it is absolutely mind-blowing. Her book, Girl in the Tunnel, My Story of Love and Loss as a Survivor of the Magdalene Laundries. It only came out in April 2023, and it's already got over 1,000 reviews on Amazon. 4.6 stars average, which is absolutely phenomenal. And, the description of the book is a great introduction because it's so well written. So I will read you guys this and then we'll hand it over to Maureen. So when Maureen was just 12, she confided in her teacher that she was being physically and SA'd by her stepfather. Never in her darkest imaginings could she have dreamt that she would be the one who would face a harrowing punishment. Within 24 hours, Maureen was taken from her home and her beloved grandmother and sent to the Magdalene Laundry in New Ross, County Wexford, run by the Order of the Good Shepherd Nuns. Oh dear. She was told that she would receive an education there, but instead was immediately stripped of her meager possessions and thrown into forced labor, washing clothes, scrubbing floors in humane and unrelenting conditions. Not allowed to speak, barely fed, often going without water, the child was viciously beaten by the nuns for years and hidden away in an underground tunnel. This just gets more insane the more you look at it. When government inspectors came, no one would see how cruelly the nuns were treating her. So in the book, as in this interview, Maureen's going to bravely recount her agonizing journey from a monstrously violent home to the cold and brutal Magdalene Laundry system and a desperate, grueling fight for freedom and for justice. Now, huge thank you for coming on. We do have a restriction on this YouTube channel whereby we have to make sure that you consent for us to publish the interview and you waive your anonymity because of the nature of what's happened to you. Maureen, do you consent for us to publish this interview?
I consent. Yeah, totally.
And do you waive your anonymity because you were a kid when this happened?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. All right, so let's just go back then to your life as a child. I mean, what was your first memories that you have?
Oh, the first memories I'd say that comes back to me as a child would be the poverty that we grew up in. We come from a very, very poor background. Then it got because my father had died. My mother had very little money. When you're a widow in this country, I think you just got a half a crown in them days for 3 children, and you'd have to walk miles to receive it. So the poverty was just horrendous. And I think then in them days, if a young widow, my mother would have been quite young. I think my first brother, the eldest brother, she was only 16. Then my second brother, I'd say she was only about 18, maybe 19 when she had me. And she was not allowed to be on her own as a young widow. It'd be better if she get a man to take care of her and her children. So she would have been introduced to a man by the priest, and she got married, and he was 30 odd years older than her, and she went on to have 10 more children. And I suppose I grew up in that poverty. We moved into his house in the town. We used to live out in the country, and we moved into the town. And then as I grew older, when the abuse started to happen, it was just horrendous. The threat was that if you say anything, you will not see your granny, And my granny was very important to me. She was so kind and so loving towards us. She shared everything with us. She would not eat, but she'd give to us. And that was so important that she would not be taken out of my life. So, these people are so clever at how they groom children and how they can silence us. And the cruel work that I had to do, because at night we had to go to the toilet indoors. So I was the one that, as a little child, had to empty the buckets in the morning. His children wasn't asked to do it. I was asked to do it. So I kind of was treated cruelly before ever I went to New Ross, in lots of horrible ways. And then when I was going to school, and the nun that was very kind to me, this nun was very, very good to me. And I used to often go down and even see her in the evenings, and she'd give me clothes, and she'd often give me a drink of orange and a cake and let me eat it there, because she knew if I took it home I wouldn't get it. And it was her that noticed that I was withdrawn, wasn't playing with the other children, and that that there was something horribly wrong in my life. And she had a lovely box of Black Magic chocolates on her desk, and I never seen chocolates like that before. So I was really bowed over by the box, for a start, with the red tassel. And then inside, when I seen the beautiful design sweets, I was just shocked. And she was very kind to me with the sweets. And of course, I started telling her the best way I could explain what was happening to me. And I couldn't explain it in proper words because I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was all about. And it was going on, I'd say, from the age of 9, and I was 12 when I first spoke about it. And I think I was really going downhill and getting very ill. And she was the one that noticed. I went into as much detail as I could with her, as she sent a note up to my mother, and the priest was called in, and the priest decided that I should be taken out of the family home and was sent to the laundry in New Ross. The next morning, the laundry van was there for me. My mother went downtown to buy me a pencil case. The nun gave me extra books and covered them for me. That's why I always think in my heart that she meant well, and she didn't think that I was going to be in a laundry. And it was only years after that we were able to put the whole thing together. And a nun opened up to me 8 years ago. She told me exactly what it was all about and how, because I asked her, why was my name changed? Why did I not go to school? Why was I scrubbing floors? And why was I made work in a laundry and I was only a child? No playtime, no other children to talk to. Wasn't even allowed to talk to the Magdalene women. And I hid in the tunnel when the men with the suits would come. That's so that nobody would see me as a child in the laundry, because questions would be asked. That why wasn't I at school? It was against the law here in Ireland not to be at your school. So they hid me in the tunnel. One day they forgot about me till late at night. I don't know, because we never seen clocks. We never seen a calendar. So I don't know. But I asked this nun 8 years ago to try and get answers to why they were so cruel. And her answer to me was quite cruel as well. But at least I knew. The rules back then in Ireland and with the Catholic Church was, if your father died or your mother died, That was the end of the family unit. It was the second family that was the family unit. So we didn't count anymore. We weren't a part of the family unit. And then when I said to her, okay, well, why did you change my name? Because that was really horrendous to do a thing like that. That's to stripping you of everything. And she said, we done that for your sake, to protect you. Now, who they were protecting me from, I don't know. But that was her answer. And I said, what about my schooling? And she said, we could not have you playing with the other children. And my boss at the time, he's from Northern Ireland, and he came with me. And she said, asked him if he was a married man. He said he was a very happily married man, and he had 2 beautiful daughters. And she said, well, would you like your children playing with Maureen, that she was an abused child? He was quite taken back and shocked by her attitude and her answer. And she said, sorry, it was wrong. It should never have happened. But we couldn't have you kind of destroying corrupting their little minds. If the children asked you why you were here and why are you at this school, they were afraid that I would tell the children what was after happening to me in the home. So that's why I was punished, and punished for somebody else's crime. That's the way I see it. I was punished for my stepfather's crime. I paid the price for it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go over this much more slowly then. And I appreciate having the bravery to come on and talk about these things. It must be very traumatic. Just going back to you, in the family home again, to have that many siblings. I mean, I just can't imagine what that's like. Did you have good memories of playing with your brothers and sisters, or?
Not really, because I was the eldest, the first family, and I was the eldest, and I was the girl. The 2 boys were older than me, and I was always nursing or feeding or changing or wheeling or trying to get the babies asleep. I think nearly every year my mother was pregnant. It wasn't long. She had 1 baby. They weren't even walking when she was ready to have another one. And no, it was cruel work, hard work for a young child. I hardly ever got out to play because I was always helping my mother to take care of the younger children. And I was only a child myself.
How
Very difficult to live your life like that. Your childhood is gone. You don't have a childhood.
How did your mother and your natural father meet?
I'm not sure. As far as I know, from what I've been told, they met at a crossroad dancing. They used to go to dances on the roads. I know it's difficult for us to understand that, but years ago, I think people used to meet on the crossroads. It was crossroads dancing in Ireland, anyway. So that's what I've been told.
And what was the attitude of the church?
The attitude of the church is I really do get annoyed when I start having to explain this. The attitude of the church is they couldn't have cared less as long as we were little Catholics and we were going into Mass. It didn't matter if we looked half-dressed, half-fed, pale, maybe dirty even. It didn't bother them as long as we filled their church up and that there was a little bit of money or whatever we had was given to them. I don't think they cared. To be quite honest with you, I really don't think they cared because they were adults. They had to see and they knew what was going on. So why cover it up?
And what about school? What was school like for you?
School in them days was quite tough. you had nuns that was very harsh, not very kind, harsh, but I still like to get into school to get away from my home. It was different. I seen the children, and we might speak a little bit, and the nuns would speak to us, even though there was harsh times and the cane, that beat you with the cane and things like that. But still, as we got older, a little bit older, it got easier, and it was nearly nicer to go to school than remain in the home.
Beverly, you've not said anything yet, and thanks for coming on. Do you have any questions about Maureen's early childhood?
Yeah, I wanted to find out, this is based on my own memories, because Maureen and I share a very similar background. Do you remember at all, when you were little, if you used to wait and watch and listen for the footsteps? Because that I recall, I see you smiling. For me, I recall, and I can't close doors to this day because I won't allow the door to be closed just in case. And even though all these years later, there's no danger out there. But did you have anything like that where you used to watch and wait and be vigilant? Could you share with us, please?
Yes, I did. I watched, especially when my mother wasn't in the house, because that's the abuse used to start with me. The very minute my mother would disappear, I would just shake. I'd take a fit of shakes, and I couldn't stop. Yeah, the footsteps and there'd be hard shoes in them days, so they'd last, and they used to have these tips on them, and you could hear the noise of him coming, and it was just awful. And he'd come down into the bedroom, or if I was up in the kitchen, and the other children would be sent out to play. Yes, they are horrible memories, and they will never leave my mind. Yes, I don't sleep at night with my bedroom door closed. It's always opened.
Did he say anything to you to try and excuse his behavior?
No, he never spoke about, and all he used to say, this is private between me and you don't say nothing to anybody. If you do, you won't be able to see your granny anymore. You won't be allowed to see her. That's the only words he would speak to me. Other than that, he never spoke to me all that much. He was a very cold, callous man. And he smoked a pipe, earned more tobacco, and he'd send me down to the pub in Carlow to get his tobacco for him. And I just hate pipes. I can't bear the smell of tobacco, of the pipe tobacco. You'll always have them triggers. Them triggers is going to be always there, but you do learn over the years to deal with them, so that you can have some sort of a normal life. His horrible breath, the smell of the pipe from his breath was used to just horrible. You have all them memories, and I don't think they ever leave. Maybe for a while, and you work on yourself, and I'm trained to do that now, to work on myself, because I'm a druid, and that has helped me quite a lot. And when I get them flashbacks, I have to think of something that's good in my life and something better, and I do that. I never pull bedroom curtains either. I just leave curtains open. My son often knocked on the door before he'd enter in. Now, he wouldn't open it because it'd be open, but he'd still knock. And he'd say, Mommy, how can you sleep with your curtains open? The daylight is coming in the morning. Why don't you close them? You'll have a better sleep. But I didn't say anything. I just, I said, I like them opened. So we do little
things. Yes. It's better to have them open because you can see everything that's around you. That's why we have them open.
That's why. I know. counselor told me that, and a doctor and a psychiatrist told me once that I didn't know why I did it, but she said it's so you can see everything, that you're the fear if they're closed, that you mightn't be able to see what's going on. So
a few of the viewers are asking.
Sorry, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, you got a few of the viewers are asking.
Sorry about that. Did you hear that phone ringing?
How did he avoid detection by your mother? A few of the viewers are asking.
Did my mother know? I don't think so. And even though people say to me, is it that you're not able to deal with it? Maybe. I don't know. I know that she was heartbroken that morning that I went away. I know she cried. I know I could see her pain. She left him. And to leave a husband in them years here in Ireland, south of Ireland, would have been a very brave thing for her to do. I don't think so. Maybe that there's a part of me I don't want to believe that she knew. And my honest answer, I don't know.
Maureen, do you have a light on in that room you could turn on? Because I think it's gone a bit dark wherever you are.
Okay, hold on.
Thanks. And viewers, if you want the link to Maureen's book is in the description box. That's the UK Amazon link. Girl in the Tunnel, Maureen Sullivan. Yes, there we go. Yeah, much better.
Okay.
Yeah. Maureen, how long was your mother with that evil man for?
Well, I know I was only about a year old when my mother met him, because there's only 2 years between me and the first child that she had in the second family. So I was just about a year old when she met him. And then I suppose they married not long. To be quite honest, I don't know the full length of time, and I doubt it. If I asked, I would have been told the truth. So to be honest, I don't know.
So did she have a number of children with him?
10.
10 with him?
Yes,
wow.
three in the first family and 10 in the second. Yep.
And she broke up with him after you were taken away?
Yes. She told me that she would leave him one day. Now, I don't know. Would you believe that I've never even tried to work it out? Did she have more kids after that? I don't know. I never even looked at it. I think she did. But she left him, and she rang. I was in England at this time, and she sent me over. She made a phone call to me, and she said, I've left him. But I said, look, it's not going to do me any good now. But if you're happy and you needed to get away from him, good for her. And I do admire her for that, because it would have been very, very difficult for her to do that in this country in them years. That would have been in the 70s, the late 60s, early 70s, that she left him. And that would have been very, very difficult for her. So I always admired her for it, as long as she was happy. I did come to see him, because when he was dying, he kept asking about me, and my family was ringing over and saying that their father was looking to see me. And I had to really think hard about going back to see him. And I did. Me and my brother decided, because he gave my brother an awful life as well. And we decided we'll come and see. Maybe he needs to say sorry. So we came to see him, and I'll never forget that last meeting that I had with him before he died. I went in on my own into the room and I said to him, why did you treat me so badly? Why did you do to me what you did? I was only a little child. I'll never forget his answer. I wanted to physically get sick. He just said, what's the matter with you? I was only getting you ready for the outside world. No, sorry. No, I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry for the pain. I'm sorry. Just so cold and callous. He sat in that bed and he dying. And I'm talking about a religious man, a man that went to mass every day, a man that said the rosary every night in our home. To me, that is shocking. That finished me with religion for all times.
That is absolutely shocking. I can't believe what I just heard. So, Maureen, how old were you when the nuns you were taken, and what was that process like? What was that day like for you? Can you remember the details?
I remember the man came in a laundry van. It drove into my school, and my mum brought me down with the little suitcase, a tattery little suitcase. I had very little going with me. And she just said to the nun, can I get a pencil case for Maureen? And keep her there, please. Don't let her go till I come back. And that's how I know that it would have been Children's Allowance Day. So it was a Tuesday that I went to New Ross. The pencil case, I suppose I didn't realise, you see, in my head, I didn't think I was going to this bad place and I was going to be treated like that. I really believed in my heart that I was going to get a good education, because that's what the nun told me. She said, you'll get a good education and you can come back to Carlow and you can hold your head high. But when I got out of that laundry van in New Ross, I knew that this is not going to work out. This is going to be a cruel, cruel place, because I knew the way the nuns looked me up and down. It was horrendous. The way they looked at me like if I was like a piece of dirt. I wasn't a human being. And I just said to him, this is my pencil case. Please let not, because they said, we need to take your case. So I said, well, please don't let nothing happen to my pencil case, because my mammy just bought it for me. I never had a pencil case before. That was the first pencil case that I ever had. And the laundryman was a nice man. And he said to the nuns, he said, that child played with that pencil case, he said, the whole way from Carlow. He said she never stopped once playing with it. So they just looked at him and smiled, nodded their head and smiled. And he said goodbye to me and I said goodbye to him. And then I was taken in and shown, not that I want a cup of tea, not was I thirsty, was I hungry? Nope. I was showed all around the laundry. These old ladies was all around me. One poor woman thought that I was her daughter. So she must have had a child taken off her, but I didn't realise it at the time. And I thought, oh, well, they're just showing me where they do the washing of our clothes. And no, this was to continue every day. I asked them where was my classroom. They wouldn't answer me. I asked where was my pencil case. Every day I'd ask them and I'd get no answers. I think that was the cruel side of it, very cruel, not to get an answer. It was just awful.
How old were you when you arrived, and what did the laundry look like?
I was 12 when I arrived. I was just gone 12 in the August, and we went back to school in September. So it was the first week in September that I went to New Ross, 1964. Now, to try to say it was 65, no, it was, but a judge ruled that out and said that, yes, I was right. And they had me marked into school while I was in UROS. So they're very devious. They're very cunning people. The laundry was a horrible place. There was the sorting room, there was the washroom, and then there was the ironing room. And I was given the job of feeding the sheets into a big roller. They called it a calendar. And the man on the farm had to make me a stool to stand on. He made it out of an orange box. And he measured me up to make the box for me to stand up on so I could reach the colander to feed the sheets in. And pillowcases, and that's how they dried them and ironed them. So you'd be at that all day long. First you'd scrub a floor or something like that before you go to mass. Then come back, have your breakfast. Then you go to work all day. And then at night time, clever enough, our recreation was doing rosary beads, iron sweaters. It all depends on the orders that they had. If they had a big order from America for iron sweaters, we'd be doing them for maybe 2 weeks. Then if there was an order from around all the religious places around the world for rosary beads, we'd have to make hundreds of rosary beads would have to be made. So it was work. It wasn't recreation time. It was very hard work. You'd be watched 24/7. There was a nun on full watch in the laundry. There was another nun full watch on your recreation time. So you couldn't talk. We weren't allowed to speak to each other. Now, we did get the odd little word in, an owns to the nuns. You know, they'd whisper something to you so that they wouldn't be heard and they wouldn't be seen. And it'd be like, what are you doing here? Where are you from? What's your name? And of course, you have to start getting used to the name that you're given there, which mine was Frances. So I got used to that eventually. So you'd say to everyone, they say, what's your name? You'd say Frances, if new women come in. Now, there was very seldom that new women come in, but there did a few. And then some of them would disappear real quick. You wouldn't see them again. I don't know what that was about. I think some of them might have been pregnant, or maybe they were taken out to have their children. This is what we found out in latter years, that that's where they went.
Can you remember being taken to your sleeping quarters that first night, and what was that experience like?
Indeed I do, because it was very confusing. I was taken over to St. Aidan's, and this was the cruel, really cruel part of it all. And this is what was so confusing. I was taken over to St. Aidan's, and there was all other little girls in the dormitory, but we weren't allowed to speak to each other. But I was the first up in the morning. That night, I tried to look at the girls, and they would look over at me. One little girl was going, like, trying to call me, and she was going, psst, psst, like that, but the nun heard her. See, we were watched at night as well. There was no time that you weren't being watched. They just kept control over you. That's what it was, control. So I wasn't allowed to talk to the girls, but the next morning I got up very early. The nun nudged me and told me to get up, and she just went, shh, that I was to make no noise. And I got dressed and downstairs and over to the Magdalene Laundry and cleaned a corridor over there, and then brought to mass, and then brought back and had my breakfast, and then into the laundry for the day. And that's the first experience of my first day of working. And then the man measuring me up and making the stool for me to stand on. yeah, it is. It's very confusing because I'm sleeping where the little girls were. I'm supposed to be going to school. I'm over here working in this laundry. I'm not allowed to ask. You know, I'd say, excuse me, sister. And there's no sisters here. We're mothers. You call us mother. Because Good Shepherds was never called sister. That's their name is Mother. Mother Teresa, Mother John, whatever. And then I think I was left in St. Aidan's for some time. And then I was brought over completely to the Magdalene Laundry. I slept with the women then, and that was it till I left there.
How many people were sleeping around you? And did you feel safe while you were sleeping, or did you feel vulnerable?
I didn't feel safe because there was I don't know how to describe it. There was like a little door in the wall where they used to open it and they'd look in. And as I say, we were watched 24/7. We were watched so much, it was very sick actually and very uncomfortable. You never felt, I don't know what words to put on it. You just didn't feel that you were living, that you were frightened all the time. Were you going to do anything wrong? Am I going to say anything wrong? Am I going to look in the wrong way? And you're not, it's like if you're not living your life. I can't find words for it. It was so cruel. It's hard to find the words for it. This little kind of like a wooden thing would go across, and you know the nun was looking in. So you'd shrivel up in the bed and you were terrified. Naturally, you go to sleep, yeah, because you're so exhausted from the day's work and you're up very early in the morning. So there was no problem with the sleeping. You would sleep because you're just so tired.
Did they have a punishment system? And did they punish you for anything that you can remember?
Yeah, well, they were very good. The most of their punishment was the 2 fingers on the cross of their big beads. They had a big cross on their beads. And they would catch you with their 2 fingers and they would dig it into you. And that is very painful. You kind of go up on your tippy toes from the pain of it. It'd be into your back, into your sides. It could be into the top of your arm. They'd dig it into your arm. You would have bruises on you. And it was very, very painful. They would put you standing in the corridor. I've seen some of the women stand in the corridor. They were being punished for maybe speaking to somebody. Mostly as if you spoke to each other, you got punished. I didn't speak to anyone. It's just one day. I know I had creepy crawlies in my hair and from all the heat in the laundry. And I was scratching my head and she came over and dug the cross into me because I wasn't doing the sheets quick enough. You couldn't even stand and scratch your head. To get the work out was so important to them because there's such orders in hotels, army barracks, all the church cleaning. If they had big meetings or anything, all the tablecloths, all that stuff came from halfway around Ireland. That laundry van went around and collected all that laundry. So we had to get all that out. There was a timeline on everything for them to make their money.
And were there a variety of jobs that you did over time?
No, I did. Sometimes I'd scrub the corridor. Other times I'd put the polish on. Other times I might have to polish with the 2 things under my feet, go up and down, and dusting, doing the stairs, cleaning down the stairs. And on a Saturday, we would clean the church. That's how we always knew it was Saturday, because we cleaned the church.
How long were the shifts and how exhausting was it?
We would be up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Some people say it was 5. I'm not quite sure because we never had a clock. We'd be up at 5. Now you'd either scrub or dry or polish. Then you go on and you go to mass. Then you come back and you have your breakfast. Then you go to the laundry and start work. That would be about up to 9 o'clock. Then you'd work, you'd stop for dinner at 12:30. Then you're back at 1 to work again. Then you'd stop for a cup of tea around 3:30. And then you stop at 5 and you'd have your supper. They called it your supper. And then we go to the recreation room and we do the rosary beads. Up till very late at night. Say maybe 8 o'clock at night. Then we go to bed. And I can assure you we'd be very, very tired by then.
And did you see anything bad happen to the other girls that were in there?
I did. I seen one woman, I'll never forget it. It was horrible. Eating her food off of the corridor. And they were bent. She was bent down and the nun was digging her head into the food for her to eat it. I don't know why. I just happened to be going up to go to the toilet and I see this happening and I was so shocked that I kind of froze. And the nuns told me to move on and stop watching, go where you're going, hurry on, run along. And I don't know if that woman let her food fall or she did something wrong. I don't know. I didn't see a broken plate or anything. I just seen food on the corridor and her eating it. I'll never forget it. I see women kind of being punished out, standing out on their own. I've seen a lot of them crying. I wasn't allowed to know what they did, or, you know, you wouldn't be allowed to know. You weren't even allowed to talk. Never mind know what happened to these poor women.
Were you aware of the tunnels before they put you in there, or was that a secret?
Sorry, how do you mean?
So how long before they put you in the tunnel?
Oh, I was there. I suppose I was there a few weeks. I think about a few weeks. And all of a sudden, the nun that was watching us in the laundry came down. She used to be up higher than us, up on a big step. And she just came down, grabbed a hold of me. And she says, come along quickly. And she, we're going to put you into the tunnel. You stay quiet. You behave yourself. The men with the suits are coming. And I just said to her, and who are they? Are they bad? And she said, no questions now, no questions, dear. You just wait there now and we'll come back for you and be a good girl. No cup of water, no a cup of tea or, you know, something to eat or nothing. Just stay there in the tunnel. No little book to read, nothing.
Had you heard?
Sorry?
Had you heard about the tunnel before that day? Or was it a complete surprise?
Yeah, because I knew about the tunnel because I used to come over from St. Aidan's the first few weeks that I was sent there. I used to come over across that tunnel and up and into the Magdalene Laundry. So I knew about the tunnel being there, but I didn't know why they just put me there, because I'd say I'm being told, I don't know how true this is to this day, that there could have been inspectors that came, people from the out, maybe to look and see if the laundry was big enough to do their laundry. I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyone that came there from the we used to call them the outsiders, because that's what the nuns would say. The outsiders are coming, straighten up, look well. And especially in the church, they were so clever. In the chapel, they had the outsiders that came in. They could see the industrial school children all dressed very nice and smart and looking well, and the nuns in the middle, but they could not see the Magdalenes.
What were the conditions like in the tunnel?
Horrible. They're horrible. If ever you want to see the inside of that tunnel, watch The Forgotten Maggies, because there's a part in that documentary that shows the tunnel.
Could you describe it for us, please?
Oh. Yeah, horrible grey, muddy floors. Grey walls. Rotten smell. There was one little kind of section off it, like a storeroom, but no door on it. And it had tins of sweets and food, tins of beans, tins of peas, things like that. Boxes on the shelves. But other than that, cold, grey. Do you know one of them old lights that would flicker? It wasn't a proper light that would stay on. The light was flickering all the time. And it was a very scary place to be.
It sounds like something out of a horror movie. Were you expecting to sleep down there?
Well, I took me some time to get used to it. Usually it would come down in about an hour. I'd say about an hour, maybe a little over an hour. But one day they forgot me and they didn't come. I was crying. I had to go to the toilet there and I was embarrassed about that. And the nun that came down and she said, "Oh, we've forgotten all about you." No such thing as, "Look, we're sorry. This shouldn't have happened. Just, we forgot you." I didn't get any tea that evening, or supper they used to call it there. I didn't get any. I was very hungry and I was put straight up to bed.
Beverly, what do you make of this tunnel thing? And was this a common thing that nuns used back then?
Yeah, it was very common. I only spent up to a certain age in a convent, and luckily for me, once Mother Superior realized that I was a soiled child and not an innocent child anymore, that they made sure that they would find a way to ask me to be removed. Because before that, I had been put forward as one of the new girls that would be put forward as a novice. But when they realized that all this other nonsense was going on in the home environment, they were definitely not going to take someone like me into the nunnery. And the tunnels are used for exactly that purposes. You know, if they have something that they want to hide, they will hide that under the convent, or they will hide it underneath any of the churches. Most churches have different types of tunnels underneath them, and they're used for all sorts of different reasons.
Wow. Have you got any questions for Maureen about her tunnel?
Yeah, with your tunnel, was there at least anything else in there, Maureen, where...
Well, you described that very well. And actually, I'd forgotten about that for a minute. That's what the nuns said, that I was a soiled child and they couldn't have me playing with the other children. But to get back to the tunnel, it went right under the church.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Right under the church. And I think that was a part of my story that shocked a lot of people. I mean, people have went down to New Ross to see it because you know that you're a child and you're telling lies. No, it's there for anybody to see. It goes right in under the church, right over and then up and into the Magdalene Laundry. And yes, that's what they had their tunnels for, was to cover up and hide people. Anything they had to hide, that's where they'd go. Now, I have an interview. I can't show it until the nun dies. And I had the papers in my back pocket stating that I was in the Magdalene Laundry. I had to fight for them. I was told I was never there, that I was imagining it, until I was able to, and my boss said to me, he said, "Where did you make your confirmation?" And I said, "In UROS." He said, "I think you have them." And I sent down to UROS for my confirmation papers. And that's when they admitted that I was there, because before that they were telling me no way was any child of the age of 12 years of age ever working in a Magdalene Laundry. I had the papers in my back where they had to send them out to me. And that nun is still telling me to get it out of my head. She said, "Get it out of your head. Never, ever," she said, "was there a child," she said, "in a Magdalene Laundry." And I said, "Well, where was I then?" And she said, "Oh, you could have been in the industrial school." And I said, "Well, could I see the ledger of where I was marked in?" And she says, "Oh, I can't show you that." She said, "We have to protect the other people." And he said, "It's fine. Protect the other people. I understand that." But I said, you just go down along where I'm registered, cover the rest." And she wasn't able to do it. She couldn't do it because it was the laundry that I was registered into. And I have my papers to prove that. I thought I'd never get them papers, but I did. And it was because of my confirmation. After, I think it was about over 2 years, I was there, and then I was sent to a laundry in Athy. I never got recognition for that laundry in Athy when the government was giving compensation to the Magdalene women, which was very little money. It was pittance, but the apology was more important to me. That was the thing I wanted, was the apology from the government, how they allowed that to happen. I never got recognition from being in the blind school. They trafficked me from one place to the other. And I don't care about them not wanting to admit about these places. I have the proof that I was there. I have my papers. Only got the papers for the blind school about 3-4 years ago, and that was by accident. They're still trying to deny and cover my story to this day. And that's why I was determined to bring my book out, and that the world would know what they're capable of, what they did, and how I was treated as a child that was abused, how I paid a dear, dear price with my life for what my stepfather done to me.
Maureen, the day that you got stuck in the tunnel, how did you manage to get out of it?
I didn't get stuck in it. They left me in it. They left me in the tunnel, and they came down late to get me when they realised, I don't know, they must count the women or something going up at night. And I told you about, the thing I said, that they'd pull across and to keep an eye on you. They must have realised, where is she? Where's Frances? And probably realised then, we've left her in the tunnel. It must have been all after, I'd say, about 12 in the day. Or, yeah, around 12-ish in the day, because I know I'd got nothing to eat. And that's how I'm trying to work the times out. And I'd say it was well after 7 or coming up on 8 o'clock when they came and thought of me in the tunnel, because the women were getting ready for bed. And that's how I knew that it was around 8 o'clock.
Are you aware of any of the kids dying in there and being disposed of?
No, that's in the mother and baby homes in Tune. The babies that was put into the septic tanks, into the sewerage pits. Yeah.
And that was the nuns.
Yes, and them children have not been taken out of there yet. They have not been taken out and given a decent burial. Imagine treating little children so badly in life, and yet in death they can't even get a decent burial. What kind of a religion is that?
That's disgusting.
It is
How
just
long? How long were you with the nuns, Maureen?
5 years altogether. I was 2 years in New Ross. I was over a year in Athy, and I was the rest of the time. They won't give me the time, but I can work it out. 5 years altogether.
And what were the worst things you experienced or saw other than the tunnel?
I'm so grateful that I didn't see the abuse that went on in the blind school. I've only been told about it, but I didn't see it. I suppose I was so engrossed with the blind people because I found them so clever, and they were fascinating people and kind. And I used to clean their dormitories and take their clothes down to be washed. And I didn't see any abuse, but I heard a lot of abuse went on there. Athy was a very cruel place as well. In them days, I think the worst thing that ever happened to me there was they had a big bucket of handkerchiefs, you know, handkerchiefs that you use for your nose, and they were steeping in a bucket. And there were a lot of them belonged to the nuns because they were Czech, and the nuns always used Czech hankies. And I wanted to get sick, and my stomach kept heaving. And I just said to the nun, I can't do this. I said, I really can't. I said, because my stomach is getting sick. And she said, oh no, you will do it. And I said, I can't. And I got physically sick in front of her. I heaved up what I'd eaten for my breakfast in front of her. And yet she made me do them handkerchiefs.
Wow. How did you manage to get out of